And a cellie is basically whoever you live with in your cell, because you know most prisons have cells that are like 2 man cells, or sometimes they're up to 6 man cells. But whoever you live with, your bunkie or your cellie, that's what they're referring to when they're talking about cellie. And for most part, most inmates they uh, they want to have a good cellie because that's who you're living with 24 hours a day. That's who's sleeping in your room. And if you don't like your cellie, it can cause major problems, and even sometimes that ends up in violence. Because I've seen guys get the brakes beat off of them for snoring, and keeping the other person up all night, and that person finally gets upset with that person, and they, you know, do something to them. Basically, a shank is all a shank is a weapon. It's a makeshift knife of some sort. It's something they can stab somebody with, and they make them out of everything. They make them out of pieces of metal, you know, fashioned into a knife, sharpened down. It could be a hard piece of plastic, and they sharpen anything that can puncture your skin is categorized categorized as a shank. And it believe me, a plastic shank can kill you just as well as a metal shank can. So shank is what they're referring to there. That's just a weapon. A bug is just a unreliable prison staff person that they call them bugs, and the bug is just a staff that won't do nothing for them, an officer that won't do nothing for them. They refer to them as bugs because bug is just an irritating thing that doesn't do anything for you, so that's why they refer to them as bugs. If that makes sense to you. Prison setting, chow is when that's what they call it on the box, the speaker, and they say chow, and everybody lines up and they go down to the dining hall and eat chow like they did back in the day with the military. Military used to call it chow. Inside the walls, they call it chow because it's like, most prisons they have big dining halls where they'll march a whole bunch of inmates down. You could have 100, 200 people in there eating chow. If you ever seen on the videos, if you ever watched Lock Up or one of those shows, you'll see hundreds of guys piled into this big dining hall at these tables.